Hi everybody! Welcome back, or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. Things are about to get really heavy. I'm Hillary. And so today I want to talk about something that I've never openly talked about. Trigger warning, stop the video now if this is going to put you in a bad place, because this is going to be a heavy topic. This is going to be about my experience with eating disorders. Let's proceed. So I know that may have been shocking or not to people who know me personally. This really is something that I've never spoken openly about. So there's a very, very, very tiny amount of people who know this about me. It's time to talk about it. When I say I've been depressed just about my whole life, I mean that. I can't really remember a point in time where I didn't feel some burden of depression. And in high school, it brought me to a new low for me, which is eating disorders. At that point in my life, I had just buried my best friend, my first love. And it broke me in a lot of ways. I felt at that point in my life that he was the only person who cared about me unconditionally. That he was the only person who didn't judge me for being weird or for being annoying or, for having crooked teeth or any of that. This was at the time the only person that I felt close to. At 15 years old, I had to bury my first love. So being depressed wasn't enough, but being depressed and going through a tragedy and being in a new school and, dealing with the repercussions of, as a child, having it pointed out to me that, I had baby fat or I had chubby cheeks. And most of the time when people would say those things to me, they weren't trying to be mean. But, there were times where, my mom would say things like, "You need to watch your weight. You're getting a little fat." And the truth is, I was never fat. I definitely believed that I was. And so in high school, that's when I stumbled upon these websites, these forums for anorexia and bulimia. And there were these personas online. There was Anna and there was Mia. So Anna, of course, being the personification of anorexia, and Mia being the personification of bulimia. Now, of course, there's more eating disorders than just those two, but those were the two that had a negative impact on me. It started with me restricting food. I had a book, and I had written down maybe 4 or 5 things that I was allowing myself to consume. So water, green tea, toast, maybe an apple. And I would work out. I would work out every day, which, that part sounds healthy, but I would work out 2 or 3 times a day and on top of it, not eat. Sometimes the hunger pains would get so bad that I would just, I would eat. I would eat whatever I wanted. I would feel so bad. I would feel like a failure that's when I started purging. So binge and purge. And binge and purge became my go-to. And the anorexic behavior, that was more something that I lied to myself about, told myself that I had control over my body by using these behaviors to restrict what I was eating. So it was a dark time for me. And I remember these websites being so demented. When I found them, I felt like I found something I could belong to, I can belong with. I could fit in with this community. We were all outsiders and we were all miserable and we were all just trying to take control of our lives, but we were doing it in a dangerous, painful, and just downright bad way. In the mindset that you need to starve yourself, and when you're in the mindset that you need to binge and purge, you look in the mirror and you never see what's happening to your body. You don't see the weight you're losing. And on the rare chances when you do, it's not enough. You still see it as a failure. It didn't bring me a sense of fulfillment or control, which is what I ultimately was seeking. It had the opposite effect. I was constantly feeling like a failure. And I would look in these forums and these communities, and I would see the progress that these other girls were making. I would see how Anna 10456, because of course they never use their names, how she just dropped down to 96 pounds. Like, why would I ever want that? I gave myself credit that my goal weight was only 105 pounds. Starting at about, 135 or 140, I probably dropped to around 120, which isn't an unhealthy weight for somebody of my height. But considering there was no nourishment, there were no vitamins, no minerals, no nutrients whatsoever. I was dehydrated, I was starved, and I was giving myself the worst possible chance at getting better. And honestly, I didn't feel like I deserved any better. I remember watching a Sundance film documentary about eating disorders. That may have been a turning point for me, but still, as I was watching it, I felt very conflicted because I felt very sad and sympathetic for the women in the documentary. And in a really twisted and ill way, a part of me felt jealous. And I'm thankful that I still had some part of me that was able to acknowledge that that jealous feeling was wrong. I think ultimately I was more afraid of forcing myself into organ failure, or forcing my teeth to erode, or forcing myself to get just so malnourished that I would faint in public, that I decided that I had to stop. It took years to get completely away from the mindset that I had to starve myself. Because there were great periods of time where, I didn't engage in that behavior. There were still so many times where I felt the echo of wanting to do it. And that's where I had to force myself to be stronger. I wish I could say how, but I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I got out of that. When you're a teenager and all you want to do is find somewhere where you belong, and that place is an anorexia and bulimia community where they encourage you to develop anorexic tendencies and to develop bulimic tendencies, it's dangerous. And I still remember so much of it. I remember, girls giving advice to chew but don't swallow. Again, looking back, I'm not really sure how I got away from it. And even as a very young adult, I knew I was done with it. But I would still feel those echoes of my depression calling me for it. I think what stopped the echoes was becoming pregnant. Not that I encourage anybody who is struggling with an eating disorder to intentionally become pregnant to combat that. But for me, when I became pregnant is when I made a lot of positive choices for my body. At that moment, I knew that it wasn't about me. At that moment, I finally had a reason to do better. That was when I quit smoking cigarettes. That was when all thoughts and almost, recollections of eating disorders ended. That was when I finally decided I was going to try new foods. I was going to try to eat healthier. I watched every food documentary I could get my hands on when I was pregnant and shortly thereafter. And honestly, that's been my saving grace, because I hit my heaviest weight, of course, after I had my daughter, and never did I look in the mirror and cringe at my body. Never did I look in the mirror and see myself as this mass of fat or unworthiness. And for me, that was a huge deal because, my postpartum body, undressed, definitely wasn't good for a while. But at that point, I just had so much appreciation for this vessel that I'm occupying, so much appreciation for my body, for being able to bring my girl into the world safely, that I didn't care what I weighed. I didn't care if I had abs. And I'm at a point where I still don't care. I do work out now, and I try to eat healthier, and I eat a lot. I eat a lot of cookies. I eat a lot, you know? And that feels good. It feels so good to have that behind me. And for anybody who might find this video, anybody who made it past the trigger warning, anybody who watched it from start to finish, who is struggling with an eating disorder, I hope with all my heart that you find something, some reason to let go of this monster. Because each and every one of us can always be better than the person that we were yesterday. And being better isn't having the better body. If anybody has any comments or questions regarding the video, go ahead and drop them down in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.